Wonderful. Okay, I think we're everything looks a little different today for some reason, but that's okay. We're going to get started anyway. Okay, I'm going to just make sure everybody is muted and unmute our guests here, and I think we're all set. So welcome everybody to our Saturday call. It is always fun to be on here every week together, and today is actually quite a special day because we in Zinzino know that the science is the science, and as Dr. Paul usually tells us, when you are following the science, you find the truth about what real health is about. And Zinzino, we're all about the truth, and we want to prove to people that we are on the track to finding the truth about not just your health, but your anti-aging, your immune system, and everything. And our guest today, you're going to be meeting them along with me today because I've just pulled them on here a few minutes before we got started here. So this is all new to all of us. But one thing I can tell you for sure is I'm not in doubt why Zinzino wanted these two to be a part of Zinzino. Zinzino is about so many different areas, but it really is about health, true health, immune system, anti-aging. We've got vitamin D in there. And do you know this couple is pretty much the expert in these areas? And I have been kind of stalking them a little bit and watching some of their videos and the things that they've done. And they are authors of different books. And now I'm going to be ordering all of these home. And I'm going to be having them on here even more Saturdays because of the wisdom that they have in so many of these areas. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves in their background because I can't do it justice. But let me tell you, I'm excited for you all to meet them. So let's bring them on here. Both for Natalie and Stephen, would you please come on, unmute yourselves and tell us a little bit about you guys, and thank you for being here. Welcome our new scientific advisors. Hello from all of us.
Thank you. We're so honored to be here. And we're, of course, so honored to just be part of the Zinzino family. Stephen, would you like to start by telling your history of how we came to this point?
Well, let's see, where do I start? My first course in dietetics was in 1968. So you can pretty much tell I've been in this arena for a long time. And that was so I was in the domestic Peace Corps here in the US, and they wanted me to upgrade federally sponsored food programs. And from there, I went on to teach clinical nutrition at two Southern California universities. And I was fortunate to direct an FDA lab here in Southern California devoted to the study of nutrition and immunology. So that was where I really got my most of my training and in the exploration of the incredible importance of the immune system and how nutrition affects immunity through one's entire lifespan. And then I was very fortunate to write a book in 1996 called the DHA Breakthrough, dealing with a particular compound of protein produced by the body called DHEA. And that was, being in the right place at the right time with the right information. So that became an international bestseller. It was translated into 4 languages. And that catapulted me into this new arena called anti-aging. So I was the right age for it, and I had the right information. So that again led to me meeting a billionaire philanthropist in 1997, and he had an idea to create a new endeavor where we would build a bridge, as he said, from the biomedical side of the fence that I was an expert in. And he wanted to build a bridge to the natural product side of the fence. And my first reaction when he said that was, that's going to be an expensive bridge. And he said, well, how expensive would that be? And I said, well, before you're done, about $100 million. And he said, okay. So that led into the next chapter of my life, which was building this thing that ultimately became called the EcoNet. We had agricultural operations on 4 continents. We had a laboratory with full-scale genomics, proteomics, biochemical, biological. And this was all in the private domain. This wasn't part of a university. It wasn't part of any kind of an institute. It was our entity, which he funded, which was amazing. And talk about an opportunity. That was the most extraordinary opportunity. And we basically did that for 18 years. And then I was able to retire, and Natalie was able to leave her medical practice, which was very stressful. She'll talk about that. And then, of course, the phone rang, and you know how that is, right? You know that there are certain times where you pick up the phone and you know your life is about to change. And in this case, it was a dear, dear friend of mine, Art Napolitano, who basically said that he was in a very difficult place because the company that he'd been working with for over 20 years, they were closing operations in their international branch, and he had to find another home. And he said, "Would you please do me a favor and check out these 5 companies, and tell me which one do you recommend that I bring my thousands of people into?" And one of those 5 companies was Zinzino. It didn't take us long to realize that Zinzino was the only real choice.
Please let him pick Zinzino, please.
And it was the only real choice because it was the only one of the 5 that was innovative, that was moving forward, that was at the crest of what we call the research and the application of that research, the wave. And so we were delighted to dig deep into Zinzino. They were happy to dig deep into our history and our training and expertise. And so that became a really important part of our decision making to come out of retirement and join forces with this incredible company.
I'd like to tell you more about Stephen that he forgot to tell you. Stephen was a nutritional consultant for members of the U.S. Olympic track and field team in 1983, and they went on to win the most gold medals in 1984.
Carl Lewis had a lot to do with that.
So Stephen understood early on about what cellular energy is and how important it is. And so that's the tools he used to help those elite athletes do better. But he realized in his life that he wanted to do more than help elite athletes. Let's help people get up off the couch and reclaim their lives that way. And that's how I met Stephen. Is he was chief science officer and president of this other biotech company where they were making nutritional products. So Stephen understands this whole process really well, from formulation to production and marketing and the language to use when talking about nutrition and repair and anti-aging. And at that time, a friend of mine had gifted me one of the products that Stephen had formulated from his company. And I had been having some palpitation kind of discomfort stuff, and I knew I didn't want to go see a doctor about it because they would put me on a beta blocker and that would just make things worse for my thyroid issue. And so I took this wonderful bioenergetic beverage, and I got a 2-week supply and drank it, and I felt so much better, and I must be done. And I stopped drinking it, and those sensations came back. And I learned an important lesson about nutrition. This is not pills for ills. This is not drugs for bugs. This is nutrition, and it's an ongoing process. And as I came into that awareness, I realized that I needed more in my life than being boarded in family medicine, being a medical doctor. And I started looking at anti-aging medicine. And Stephen's book, The Metabolic Plan, helped me study for my anti-aging medical boards. It helped bring together a lot of concepts that were very piecemeal in the training at that time. And it was like, oh, this is the big aha. And at that point in my life too, I was also acting as a principal investigator for pharmaceutical trials and began doing the role of participating in nutraceutical clinical trials as a principal investigator. And it is so much easier doing nutraceutical clinical trials than pharmaceutical ones.
You can sleep at night.
Yeah. Wow, the crazy things I saw for drug studies. It's not easy. And so more and more in my path, I was expanding my education regarding nutrition, integrative medicine, metabolic medicine. I had gone into menopause in my early 30s, and that was a really big nudge for me to move forward when it comes to anti-aging and hormone balancing. I'm on 11 hormones right now, and I went into menopause 20 years ago, and I am so grateful for this life of repair. And when I think back about why did I get into medicine? Well, I knew I wanted to be a doctor when I was 5. And when I was 5, a dog bit my face in multiple places. And I had so many stitches that my parents covered up the mirrors so I couldn't see what I looked like. And so I know it was bad.
Mm.
And I know it was bad because they were concerned about taking me to kindergarten my first day because I looked pretty horrific. But when the stitches came out and I was able to look at my face, I was amazed at my ability to repair. And so that's what I really wanted to pursue is this path of repair for the human body. And Western medicine was kind of a bummer in that place. But anti-aging medicine and integrative medicine and metabolic medicine and now Zinzino, oh my gosh, it's all about repair. Um, and
Okay,
so
I know that everybody out there was like, yes, 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 and everything you guys said. And I'm like, I already love you guys. I'm like, okay, all this knowledge, I wish I could just get so much of it. And I know it's gonna take time, but so you've got all of this background. I mean, the books that you've written, the metabolics, the metabolism information, the anti-aging, you've got so many things, the nutritional background. So when Art Napolitano is asking you about looking at these, and you said there's only one, and there was really only one, what was it about that one? What were the key things that you guys looked at or saw in Zinzino? That's what how did you guys, with all of your knowledge, get here?
What I told Art was there's a checklist. It's pretty simple, straightforward, easy. The checklist is if nutrition is a science, if a company is selling nutritional products, they ought to have scientists and not just actors with white coats. They ought to have real scientists. Did Zinzino have those in spades? Yes. So that's a huge check mark there. Second thing is, are those scientists employed by the company or are they just hires? In this case, no. Zinzino had scientists working in their employ, and they were associated with a lab in Oslo that had even more scientists. So that got a big check mark. And then, of course, the third is, are these scientists doing real quality work that could be published in biomedical journals? Wow, the answer was yes, big check mark for Zinzino. And finally, if it's really cutting edge information and not just kind of, boring information, they ought to have some patents. Did Zinzino have patents? Oh, yeah, they had a patent portfolio too. So we went back to Artie and said, look, there's only one company on this list that checks all the boxes. So that's the company that we should dig deeper into. And we said to Artie, you should dig deeper into the marketing and all of that, and we'll dig deeper into the science side, and we'll meet back and we'll make a decision. Well, while Zinzino was making a decision, Artie was making a decision, they came back to us and said, hey, whether Artie comes on board with all of his people, it doesn't matter. We'd like you to be on our advisory board. And we were like, thumbs up. So in the end, of
Okay,
course,
well
it all worked out.
let's dig into that. So once you got this from Art and you started looking at Zinzino, so you started to meet some of the people and the products. Our founder, our CEO, the rest of the scientific advisory board. What were your thoughts there?
Mm.
Wow. Well, we know we're not the smartest ones on the board. And we are just so impressed by their backgrounds and their intelligence, and it's just such an honor to be working alongside them and learning from them. And the products that they've created, we talk to people about, we want a personal experience when you do your nutrition. You want something you can see, feel, and measure. And wow, so measure, Zinzino has that right up front. And seeing and feeling, this group has created products that you don't have to wait for the second test. Things are already changing for the better. And so when we think about the work that, I hope I say his name right, Ole Eid did, in
Ida,
creating,
yeah.
I think too, the balance oil, and the process behind that, it's really incredible, because I was taking polyphenols and I was taking fish oil on a regular basis, and that only got me to 6.7 to 1. So, when people talk about nutrition, they have to understand that the balance oil is so much more than this plus that. It's so
Well, I think
synergistic.
too, because this was Ola Ida's life work. People sometimes think that somebody figured this out or it was something new, but this is a 30-year process that he used on finding out, why does fish oil not work? And fish does. So we are not a fish oil, we're an oily fish in a bottle. And I think that was an important thing. But again, and also you said your first test. So I love the fact that you were that close into balance, but not quite into balance. But it just is proving how much you know what you were doing, and your numbers are proving that. But I always tell people, if you're over 3 to 1, you can't say, well, I'm doing pretty good, because if you're over 3 to 1, it's like saying, well, I just have a little bit of cancer, so it's okay. Because it's not good for you. So and with all of your knowledge, not being the smartest on the board, you guys have a ton of knowledge, and it's just amplifying everything else that's on the board. So yes, that product and Ola Ida, hands down, the basis for what Zinzino's been doing. Absolutely.
The other component of that, Carla, was when we looked and we started talking with the other scientists, one of the things that we thought we could bring that was unique was our understanding of how to talk about things, that in a way that people can understand and grasp immediately. And in the book that we wrote in 2013, a lot of the book is diagrams, cartoons, breakouts, so you can see things, diagrams, because we had already realized that words on a page, that was rapidly becoming untenable. In other words, and by the way, what my first book, I got a six-figure advance. By the time we got to this book, it was down to 3 figures in terms of what the publisher was willing to give us. So the whole concept of people reading books was going out the window. It was all rapidly being replaced. And at the same time, people need to have an understanding and awareness on a very deep level. And that's our specialty. Our specialty is creating ahas, creating a concept that people understand, that leads them into a better understanding of who they are. My motto is if people knew better, they would do better. But to know better, that has to be done, that learning experience has to be done in a way that everybody can understand and employ. You don't talk to a 5-year-old about calculus. You talk to a 5-year-old about adding 2 plus 2. All right. And that's what we're good at, is talking to people at their level. If you want me to talk science, we can do that in molecular biology. But if you want to talk about the structure of the cell and how critically important it is to understand that the cell is the fundamental unit of all life. we should focus on the cell if you want to talk about a long-term vision for your health and wellness.
Well, I think you mentioned too, there's 300 billion reasons to be starting Zinzino. What did you mean
Yes.
by that?
Well, we're all replacing about 300 billion cells a day. So that's an aha that most people, sit back and go, what, is that possible? Yes, we're all replacing about 300 billion cells a day. So the opportunity here is to build cells that are or create cells that are more robust, healthier, stronger, more resilient. And over time, right, you will literally build a better body. So, I can envision a day where we have a Zinzino convention and there's thousands of people chanting, build a better body, because it's already in my brain. It's happening in my brain as people understand that that's the process that we are all engaged in. Now, there's lots of different things to talk about. I mean, Natalie can talk about Viva for the next hour. All right.
Well, let's do that another day. We're gonna call you back on here because I know that's one of my favorite products. I think they tell me at the American office that they've got an extra stash in case they're run out because they need the Minnesota stash for all of us up there.
Right.
But so you've met the scientific advisory board, but I also think because those people are incredible. Each and every one of them are like specially chosen. And when Dog talks about our CEO, keep the keepers. We find people when we keep those keepers. And I know that's exactly what he has felt when he met you guys is like, we need to keep these keepers. So I'm gonna mind them.
Right.
So you met the advisory board, but what did you think about when you're looking at some of our personnel, our CEO, our founders? What were you thinking when you met them?
Well, when we first met Orion, it was via Zoom, and we were talking with them on the concept of innovation and their path in gut health. And Stephen's previous work, where he had the world's largest medicinal library at his access and used AI to sort through the data to find um, plants that outperformed other plant nutrients in addressing different issues for the body. And when we talked about gut health and some of the plant work and plant um, information already available, Orion leaned in and had, his interest was there. And as we've got to know him, now we understand he is very innovative. He told us that in 5 years, we should not be able to recognize Zinzino just because of all of the innovation. Like, wow, this man is truly a visionary.
Mm.
And we clearly could see what great leadership skills Dag has when he brings a group together and coordinates the discussion. And we were fortunate to meet him and Orion in person in May. And the way they present themselves is truly leaders with not just charisma, but integrity. And it's a group that we really enjoy and appreciate being part of.
Yeah.
I love that. And I kind of have that same feeling. And not only that, but you should see those guys out just like on a volleyball court. We do that every director trip. I'm sure we'll pull you guys in on that because they are so competitive. So when I hear you say, Orion says, you're not going to recognize us, I know he's got, like you said, probably his number one quality, I would say, is that he is a visionary. And his vision is so big that every time he comes up with a new vision, we all kind of go, what? Like, it's that much. But I agree, the things that you hear they're working on, because but this is science. Science is evolving in a lot of ways, but in the health field, everything that you guys have studied, and this is years you've been doing. I actually think, Stephen, there was something on one of your bios that talked about that you'd been studying something back from 19 something something. I'm like, wait a minute, that's like when I was born back there that you were already doing things. I'm like, but with the way science is going, and you find somebody that's on that same track, but with the vision, because I think your guys' vision just through your books has also been to make that difference. To I'm gonna giggle at this, inspire change in life, because build a better body, inspire change in life. I know that Orion talking about our mottos here, but we can have both because they both work, right?
They
We
do.
do want to do this, but the science on where we're going and the vision that we really want for Zinzino is really to lead the way. And you guys have been leading the way in so many areas that you guys have been studying in all this time. Between you, Stephen, and Natalie. Natalie, you've been studying things even like, I can't wait to have you on just talking about the vitamin D. And I know we got started on it. We'd be opening up into even more worms, but the way we're going, the vision of where Zinzino wants to go, the vision that Orion has. I mean, where do you guys see Zinzino? Or what would you like to see her?
Well, the critical point that you're making is that science advances, and the speed at which science advances today is blinding. And I think everyone on this call understands that things are moving faster than you can possibly imagine. And that's a little unsettling for people when they realize that when they wake up in the morning, things have changed radically from the time that they went to bed. It's that dramatic and that rapid. So if you are involved in any kind of scientific endeavor, you have to have a team, and that team has to work together flawlessly, and you've got to be constantly comparing notes so that everyone's on track to fulfill the goals of that team. And that's what Zinzino has, and that's why we're so excited, because that doesn't exist commonly in the world. That doesn't exist. If you look at where I've been part of a number of really highly functioning teams, but everyone in that experience understands that they have to contribute one part of that puzzle, because it's a puzzle, and the puzzle is constantly evolving. So you have people who are experts in genomics, and you have people who are experts in endocrinology, you have people who are experts in biochemistry, and all those people have to work together to fill in all the parts of the puzzle. And when you're done, you have a spectacular opportunity to move everyone forward. I always look at this like it's a football game. All right. In American football, you've got 100 yards, right, from one goalpost to the other. And our goal is to carry the ball into the end zone. What's the end zone? The end zone is a higher quality of life for millions of people around the world. But the field, Carla, is very muddy. We all understand that, right? I mean, you all understand that 50% of everything you read on the internet is complete nonsense. So the field is very muddy. We've got to carry the ball through a muddy field, and that means we have to constantly be aware that people need accurate information, not just information. People need accurate information that they can use to create change in their life. And that's the way we get this ball into the end zone, which is a better life for everybody.
Well, I think too, and the combination of your backgrounds, because Natalie, being a medical doctor, the background, I mean, and we've heard it in Zinzino, medical doctors just don't have that nutritional education at all. So when you had different things that you were studying and finding out so much about nutrition, metabolism, and menopause, girl, I know. We want to know more about that, but we have to get the word out. But coming from your background and getting the word out, I think people believe their doctors sometimes more uh, than they do when somebody's talking about other things, or the science behind their having those doctors. So having you part of that is also a plus for Zinzino.
Well,
Right.
let me interject here that Natalie is very unusual to go through what she went through in terms of her training, and then to add to that the hundreds of hours that she needed to be boarded in anti-aging. That's very unusual for someone to be that diligent. So that's one of the things that was so attractive to me.
I love that. So tell me, like, being board certified in anti-aging, I didn't know that was a thing. So, but that's another area of expertise you have. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because seriously, I mean, I know there's a lot of my people, if they were all putting up their hands, we're all interested in anti-aging, and we feel like Zinzino does a lot of that, but that's your field.
Yeah, well, since I first got started in that, they've expanded their name. They're the American Board of Anti-Aging and Regenerative Medicine. And Stephen and I have been exploring that regenerative aspect. In 2018, we went down to Panama City in Panama and visited a friend of his. He knows so many amazing people, Neil Reardon, who started the Stem Cell Institute, and the work that he's doing there with people, helping them to reclaim their lives in so many different ways. And the American Board of Anti-Aging Medicine actually has this huge worldwide net. And when I joined, there were 40,000 physicians that were part of this across the globe. And it's interesting to see just the different regulations in different countries, what's allowed and what's not. So for example, here in the US, we can supplement DHEA over the counter, but you can't do that in Canada. In other countries, they get stem cell therapy very easily, and we don't in this country. And a couple times I went to the anti-aging conferences in London, and it was really interesting to see what they were doing in France with regenerative medicine and stem cells, and how these injections into this woman's face who had been in a car accident, how as time went by after the injection, she just got better and better and better looking, because that was the path of the regenerative therapy. And so Stephen and I have been on similar paths regarding how we reach out to people in this process of building better bodies, improving cellular energy. And when he thinks about how do we help people get better, his approach has always been about the masses. And, how do we do this for everybody? And for me, I have been on this, how do we do it individually? What do we make it best for this person? And so we have really great conversations about, where do you take to the masses and what happens clinically to the person in that process. Yeah.
But that is exactly what I feel that we need in Zinzino, because yes, it's the world health. Dr. Paul says we want to make a dent in world health. We really want to make that. But as you said, Natalie, this is on an individual basis. That's why this is test-based nutrition, and everybody tests individually. But there's so much of this that is affecting when you change one person, you're changing one person at a time to get everywhere, but it all kind of all ties together. It really does tie together. So I'm going to go back to something in regards to the future here, because I want to end in where we see this, because actually we started at one point saying something on how it almost seems impossible, because we're talking about, all these different things in anti-aging, so many people doing things around the world. And it is difficult. I mean, I thought it was difficult, even just in the one area of menopause. There is hundreds of directions you could go, and you don't know who to believe. And there's certain people that talk about different things. And it was difficult to find up or down in any of it. And I think health in general, I think it's tiring. People are really confused. If you ask anybody, how do you know for sure? And I think that's probably what we get as partners of Zinzino, the most questions about. How can you know for sure? And for me, I know that I know because of what it did for my son. And you do something for a mom and you're sold, and now I'm doing it for my kids and my grandchildren. But how the future of how we're getting from all this information with all of the areas, because just the areas of your guys' expertise is actually a lot. I mean, there's so many different areas. I'm like, you can't say one thing. You can't even probably narrow it down to 10, because there's so many things you guys know so much about. But how do we get that into making it so easy in the future. It's going to be, it's a long-term plan. Maybe Dog says it best, so if he takes a long time to think about things and then he acts quickly, but how do we get from the anti-aging and getting here on all the things we want to do with all the knowledge we have?
Well, you focus on the big rocks, and in when Natalie and I first retired, we knew we weren't going to sit around and play golf and knit, right? We knew we were going to do something, build something together. And so we started the Healthy Skeptics. And the Healthy Skeptics, well, we started with a website and with daily videos that we would launch to help people to understand what to explore and what to ignore. And that concept really took off because people really understood, oh, I can't go on the internet anymore and find out what's true because it's a swamp of confusion. There are people on the internet who are lying. There are people who are just making stuff up. And so
Gurus, these specialists, these specialists at something, and how can you trust that?
right.
Exactly.
So our whole point was, hey, so here's Natalie, all right, here's me, and if you trust us based on our credentials and our experience and who we are and what we've done and where we've been, that we then jump on board with us, and we will tell you what to explore and what to ignore. So that whole concept is something that we bring to Zinzino because that's part of the game here. Part of the game is understanding what to explore and what to ignore. And so, one of the things that we are delighted to take part in is this moving the ball down the field. We take one example, just one example. When you improve the cell function, now let's translate that to one level up. There are barriers in your body. The barrier is made up of cells. Think about one barrier, and that is the barrier between your digestive tract and your bloodstream. That barrier is 2 cells thick. If those cells are compromised in any way, that barrier is compromised, and molecules will get from your gut into your bloodstream that shouldn't have access to your bloodstream. So we want people to understand that when we talk about this product, right? When we talk about ways to improve cell function, we are improving the barrier mechanism, which is critically important. And it's no surprise that the next test that's coming out is going to be a test that you can take to validate the effect of this product on the barrier between your digestive tract and your bloodstream. That is going to be huge. That test is going to be incredible. And we are delighted to follow the research along the development path to that test, because that will be one more test to do exactly what you said, which is to validate a person's decision to join Zinzino.
I like that. It's the visual that I now have in my head is, of course, American football. I was a cheerleader, by the way, so I'll be cheering everybody else on as we get everybody going. And it is muddied waters. I mean, it's a muddy field out there. But I think just having somebody coaching you guys along that you trust, and seriously, it didn't take 5 minutes for me to learn that I can trust you guys, and with the background and the things you're doing. So that we'll be able to together get through that muddy field and step by step work on getting all the way through life and having the best life that we can and the best body. And the best body, better body, what did you say?
Build
Build a better body.
I love it. Let's build a better body. And we'll be getting step by step through this. And Zinzino, like you said, like Orion said, within 5 years, there's so many things we're going to be innovating on because science is changing, or because we're getting that direction to be able to find a more true path that's going to be easy to get everybody through that field and get through the minefield, maybe even
Yeah.
to get into the end zone there. I like that. Well, guys, we're going to be hearing so much more from you because we already know we're going to have a vitamin D talk at one of these times. We got to have a Viva talk. We got to have so much more. And I really like that we have a way to learn from you guys too, with the way you're writing books that make it easier for us to understand all the muddiness out there from people that we can trust. I think Zinzino, they found the keepers here and Dog likes to keep those keepers. And I feel honored that you guys have came out of retirement to be a part of the mission and the vision of where Zinzino is actually going. Thank you for saying yes to Zinzino. And I look forward to our future together. Any last words that you would like to say to the people that are looking at Zinzino at this point?
Get the health protocol premium. You must make sure Viva is in your order.
Yeah.
I love it. And Stephen, did you have any last words for people before we jump off?
Fasten your seatbelt.
We're heading into the next gear. I love it. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I usually hear unmute people so that they all can tell us and say thank you. So appreciate you guys joining us here on this Saturday. We look forward to having you soon again. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wednesday
Thank you,
nights.
Natalie.
Join them
Thank
on
you.
Wednesday
Thank
nights.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
Natalie and
Beautiful. Thank
Steven,
you.
welcome to
Wednesday
the
nights.
Zinzino
Yes,
family.
thank you, Liz.
Was a gold medal video.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Wednesday nights.
you.
Catch them on Wednesday nights.
We'll be doing
Yes.
that. Thanks everybody.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye now. Thank you.